Welcome back to War Room Impeachment. We're at the Breitbart Embassy today. This is episode 55. This is a special episode on the John Fredericks Radio Network and America's Voice.news. This is Vox Populi, which means we're taking callers on the topics of impeachment or the presidency or what's going on that's driving this country right now. We want to hear all your voices. Raheem Gassam, Jason Miller. Got a full switchboard. We want people calling in. The number is 888-480-5646, 888-480-5646. Let me give you the ground rules. This is a Socratic method. We actually care about what you think. We provide the news. You provide the opinion. Got to be ready to hit a fastball. Got to be quick on the trigger. If you want to say thank you, how much you love the show, we love that, but we want to get right to the point. We got so many callers last time. The Kiara Johnson and the great team at John Fredericks Radio Network, their switchboards were melting down. I want to see the same thing today. 888-480-5646. Because of America's Voice.news, you get to tell the whole world as everybody listens in. Let's go to Maryland and Sue. Sue in Maryland, you're on War Room Impeachment.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I wanted to say that, well, of course, love the show, but I was at the Ravens game yesterday and did kind of my own impromptu poll with California people there for the 49ers and Marylanders. And I can tell you, I didn't find anybody that talked to me that was wanting this president to be impeached. From California.
Hang on. You talked to the Bay Area fans that showed up, those diehard 49ers fans, and none of the people from the Bay Area?
No, I did. Most of them that were there were telling me that their businesses that they owned were doing so well. They were hiring more people, that they love this president and they don't really care. They're out Christmas shopping. They're going to a ball game. The people from Maryland, I'm from Montgomery County, and I call it Moco Loco. And I'm talking to people from Maryland, and they're not interested. And then I said, well, what do you think about Pelosi? You know, she's from Baltimore. And one guy said to me, you know, there's Baltimoreans and there's Baltimoreans. And Pelosi is a Baltimorean.
Sure. Yeah, my mom's from Baltimore. Sue, let me jump in here real quickly. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Before you go, I want to ask you, how do you think the Patriots stand up to the new revitalized Ravens?
I don't think they're going to stand up to them very well at all. You know, this is my first year as a season ticket holder. And I bought the tickets because my son had said, you've got to, this Lamar Jackson, you got to really watch him. Now's the time to buy season tickets. And he showed me an interview with Deion Sanders after Lamar had been drafted. And they asked him, how did he feel about being a Raven? And he said, I think the Ravens are going to give me everything, and I'm going to give them a Super Bowl. You can believe it. You can believe it. And I believe it.
Sue in Maryland.
It was wonderful having...
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. By the way, my mom's from Baltimore. We used to always say that those guys, we used to tease her Baltimoreans. I was a huge Colts fan until they moved out in the middle of the night and broke my heart. That's when I shifted to the Patriots. Let's go to her. The key point. The economy is on fire. So when Sue in Maryland is sitting there in the stadium doing her impromptu poll, and this is what I love about Trump supporters, they're just going to get up and you go, hey, what do you think about you with the 49ers jacket? What do you think about Nancy Pelosi? How do you think that plays?
Well, I think this goes back to what we've been talking about with the opportunity costs and the fact that we're getting away from things people want to actually be discussing. But look, we saw the Black Friday numbers, record-setting Black Friday numbers this past Friday. We expect Cyber Monday today to be explosive on the economic growth. Consumer confidence is very high.
We had a great Black Friday. The Small Business Saturday, I heard, was on fire. Today, Cyber Monday's on fire. The economy's on fire.
The economy's on fire, and it's going great. And I think this is the real world. And Steve, you're exactly right. I mean, the lines to get into the malls are slam-packed. People are going online. The U.S. economy is where it's at. That's where they see all this nonsense that's on TV, and they're sick and tired of it.
You're listening to Vox Populi, which is the War Room Impeachment special every Monday for 2 hours on America's Voice.news and also on the John Fredericks Radio Network. 888-480-5646. Sue from Maryland really kicked it off strong. Raheem, who we got on deck?
We have Pam on line 1 from Norfolk. Do we have Pam?
Pam from Norfolk. Are you on? We have you?
Yeah, we're on here.
How you doing, ma'am?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
So how can we help you today?
You know, well, I'd like to talk about the second congressional here. Even if Lane Luria does vote for impeachment, she's done before she gets to that. Okay, she's
So
very
this is
weak.
one of the key
Okay,
this is one of the key districts, the key 31. How much are people down there focused on how she's coming out? She's the one that beat Taylor, the Navy SEAL. How are people focused on her
That's an
impeachment?
aberration.
What do you mean?
I think it's an aberration for her to have even beat Taylor. Taylor beat himself.
What do you mean
Okay?
by
He
that?
handled he handled the petition problems. There was some wrongdoing on petitions that he had to gather to get on the ballot, and it wasn't anybody directly on his staff as paid petition gatherers, but he handled it way wrong, and they beat him over the head with it morning, noon, and night, on the media. So he beat himself. It was an aberration for somebody like Elaine Luria to win.
Yeah, and this is
Okay?
an
And
R+3.
She's already done. She's already done.
Why do you say she's already done?
Okay.
Why do you say she's already done?
Well, word on the street from folks I'm talking to is NRCC is going to fund this race, whoever's nominated.
Do you?
Okay.
What do you get from the people down there? Is there going to be from the independents? I know this is a mobilization. You got to get the MAGA people out. And Taylor wasn't exactly the biggest supporter of President Trump. He and President Trump there was some daylight between those two. Besides the MAGA people, the independents, your neighbors that are not that engaged in politics, where do they stand on this?
I don't think anybody's talking about impeachment at all. I mean, that's not who they talk to me about. So.
Pam and Norfolk.
It's just kind of like a.
Pam and Norfolk.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean.
Thank you so much for calling. Appreciate it. Here you're getting again. This is the key district. This Virginia 2 is where we never should have lost that district, right? It's R plus what? R plus 3? And it's a huge service, a huge
and
military.
President Trump got over 60% in the district. I mean, it really broke in the president's favor in 2016. I don't think Luria is going to be around that much longer. And in fact, Elaine Luria, the congresswoman down there, is out there defending her move to back this vote toward impeachment, which I don't think is the right direction to take it.
We got to make her famous. We got to have her. We're going to invite her on the show, Raheem. We got to invite all these congressmen on the show. I want to have the big poster about who they are and give them a chance to come in. And
Well, I mean,
defend
they
it.
should consider this an open invite.
Absolutely.
Any of these people who want to come on, who want to explain why they're doing what they're doing, why they're being led around by Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and not doing what their constituents elected them to do, they can come on
Is
here
the
and defend that.
anecdotal evidence backed up by the polling we're hearing time and time again now? And I realize it's curated because these are Trump supporters, but is the anecdotal information starting to add up that people are just not talking about this? It didn't engage the nation's attention on these hearings. Do you feel that?
Well, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, as a real smart advertising campaign said a couple of decades ago. And Democrats, it was largely a whimper what they rolled forward. I mean, it didn't capture Americans' attention. They looked at it, and it was a bunch of suits, a bunch of bureaucrats. They were attacking President Trump, folks who were bitter how 2016 turned out. And I think that's why Americans are now saying it's time for the holidays.
Okay, this is War Room Impeachment. We're here every day, 7 days a week, until the day after President Donald J. Trump is acquitted. Sometime, I think, on our schedule. And I'm going to talk. We got Raheem Kassam, was Nigel Farage's wingman. I assume the president's going to check in with Nigel while he's overseas. Nigel Farage was the populist leader that really drove the whole Brexit issue. Raheem Kassam was the managing editor of Breitbart London. That was the platform to really get that word out. But more importantly, he was at one time the communications strategist and the overall strategist for Nigel Farage in the building of UKIP and really bringing that. And then Jason Miller was the senior campaign strategist for President Trump's tremendous come-from-behind 2016 victory.
Hey, I had senior in my title, too.
Most senior. You're too young a man to be senior. This is Vox Populi, and what that is, it's a fancy Latin term for voice of the people, and what it is, we take your calls. We want to hear what you have to say about the impeachment process, about Trump's presidency, about politics particularly. We love getting input from folks out there about what's happening in your region, about the economy, and what are people focused on. Raheem.
And here's the thing as well, President Trump is off to London today. We're going to be seeing more of the NATO summit. We obviously had a terror attack in London on Friday. So, there are all these sorts of issues that play into local elections,
Is
general
Boris
elections.
Johnson, they're criticizing Boris Johnson for trying to politicize the attack
Yeah.
on these brutal knife attacks. You saw it in The Hague over the
Yeah.
weekend. That's the new, since they have such tough gun restrictions over there, right? You're seeing these jihadists attack people with knives. This is a brutal, and this gets to prison reform and all of that, what's happening in England.
Yes.
Is Boris Johnson politicizing that? And is he actually going to meet with or chat with President Trump about this upcoming election when President Trump is there?
Well, so just to finish, my point is that a lot of these things, a lot of these other issues, and Hong Kong is the same thing, and the new tariffs announced this morning on Brazil and Argentina is the same thing. It all plays into the impeachment process because it all shows the president getting on with the business of being the president. So if you don't, I'm just saying for the callers, look, if you've got other things, they're not peripheral. They are critical to
Central.
what's
This is
going
all
on right
inextricably
now.
linked.
They
I
are
mean,
completely.
Well, today, let's take the Argentina and Brazil. I think the president and the Treasury Department feel that they were devaluing their currency to be more competitive, particularly in agriculture products, with China. And the president, as you know, given this Hong Kong situation, and he signed the bill last week, the Chinese have not responded. This whole deal, one of the pivot points of that is these massive agricultural purchases the president wants that will actually, not help him politically, but help the nation. Right, particularly in the breadbasket of this country with our great farmers, and you can tell he's got a very short threshold on this. Our number is 888-480-5646. Raheem, what do we got?
Yeah, we have callers on the line. We have on line 3. I want to go to Steve in Wheeling, West Virginia. Steve, do we have you?
Yes, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, how you
morning.
doing, brother? How can we help you?
Yeah, well, I thought this was about the impeachment thing that you were going to talk
Sure,
about. this morning.
absolutely.
Anything you want to talk about?
I really appreciate these congressmen, this guy down here in the New Orleans area who just slapped silly that guy Chuck Todd over the weekend. And I think the Republicans are coming out now and finally fighting for the president. And I don't believe you guys should be on any of these weekend shows anymore. It's just a waste of your time.
Why is that? You don't think it gets out to the people that are low information voters? I mean, the reason, I think it was Senator Kennedy, correct me if I'm wrong, went on there.
He's great. Isn't he great? He's a great guy.
Well, the way the mainstream media positioned it, if you go to the mainstream media sites, is that Kennedy basically was backpedaling the entire time. You watched it. What do you think?
I think he just slapped him silly. I think he said a good point. He says, you guys are just fake, and it's a circus thing, and that's what they're going to do with this inspector report.
What do you think?
They're just going to try to tie it in. It's timing. It's all about the timing,
What do you think? People out in West Virginia, and you're in West by God, Virginia, what do they feel right now about this impeachment process? And not just your friends that are maybe MAGA supporters, but other people you know at work or socially that are independents, maybe don't tune into the news that much. What's the general sense in where you are in Wheeling about this impeachment process?
Well, you still got some hardcore Hillary people, but even the Democrats, I mean, they're sick of this stuff. They just want to go to work, make some money, and just get on with life. And they think these people are communists.
Steve in Wheeling, West Virginia, thank you very much. I appreciate the call. Number is 888-480-5646. Here's where you hear your unexpurgated opinions about the impeachment process, the economy, other things dealing with the direction of our country. Raheem, who's next?
I just want to pick up on something that the Steve in West Virginia just talked about. You had this picture go viral over the course of the weekend. This man in the Cornstalk Cafe in Shelby, Iowa, had Joe Biden standing right next to him. I don't know if any of you guys saw this, and he refused to look at him. He stared straight ahead at the televisions. He was watching the football game. Joe Biden's trying to get his attention, looking at him, trying to get his attention, and Politico reporter Natasha Korecki reported and tweeted the picture. The man said, "Who?" and then asked. He was told he was Barack Obama's former vice president. He said, "Are you serious? I'm not an Obama fan. This is Republican country." And I think it goes to
he's watching Hawkeye football, man. You can't
interrupt.
Can't get a brother. Can't interrupt a brother.
I thought maybe Biden would cruise over there and start nibbling on his finger, or say, "Young man, do you know
Was that creepy?
Do you know what malarkey means?"
First off, let's go to that before we go to another caller.
Yeah.
The malarkey thing. As soon as I saw it on the bus, I thought it was a goof. I literally thought it was a parody.
Yes.
Why would you, you're a communication strategist in the U.S., why would you, what were they thinking?
So for 2 seconds, the thought crossed my mind. It's so bad and so terrible. Maybe they're doing it intentionally to spark interest in the bus tour, which normally people wouldn't care about. And then I realized that it's Joe Biden. Like, no, it's a stupid slogan, and they just don't know what they're doing, which is why he's playing.
But isn't it this is like a throwback to his corn pop days?
Yes.
I mean, malarkey hasn't been used in, and I love using old
He's
phrases.
bringing malarkey back.
I haven't heard malarkey used literally in decades. If you're 90 years old and running, and you're not exactly ready to hit a fastball like Joe Biden is, it's all coach pitch, right? For all the interviews, why would you bring up malarkey? No, I'm serious. The guy's sitting around the table thinking of how do we brand this? How do you brand it on something that's a throwback from 5 decades ago?
When you get these strange candidate moves, and as someone who's managed races for House and Senate and governor, usually they almost all won, but there are a couple that haven't won. But towards the end of campaigns, when folks on the campaign know that a candidate is not going to win, that this is essentially their swan song, they kind of just say, you know what, if you want to go ahead and do this, go for it. I mean, we're not going to win anyways. If you want to pick it.
Do you think there's really that? Look, he's leads. Every time you see in CNN, his poll numbers are increasing. And I realize on the state level, it's grim. But the professionals in the room, you think they realize the air's coming out? They're decelerating quickly?
Yeah, and I think you also have to pick certain battles. You can't go to the candidate and say no every time. And so I'm sure they had to use a lot of no's when trying to explain Hunter Biden away as far as what Joe Biden may or may not have wanted to responded with. But when it came time for the no malarkey bus tour, we're like, fine, whatever. No one's going to cover this thing. Everyone's focused on impeachment or holiday shopping, passing USMCA.
Do you think it's wise strategically, given where he is in Iowa, to make such a big deal and to go on would you tell him to go on a bus tour or focus on a blowout number in South Carolina and try to compete in New Hampshire? Yeah. He's losing, he's losing rapidly in Iowa. Would you tell him to double down and do it again, or go to New Hampshire, or try to have a blowout number in South Carolina?
No, this is actually, it's a smart strategy for them to spend all the time in Iowa, and I'll tell you why. There's a story that came out yesterday, and they sometimes get jumbled together, but they talked about even say John Kerry was, I think, running 5th or 6th in Iowa at this point in 2000.
Because it can all move.
Right, it can all move. You don't know. Mayor Pete is going to have his moment in the sun where he gets punched. We don't know how he's going to react. But here's the thing. If you want to win in South Carolina, which is the first state that comes up where Joe Biden's actually leading, the best strategy is to win Iowa or New Hampshire. Joe Biden knows that as the essential front runner nationally, even though people don't think he's going to ultimately win, that if he wants to have a shot, he's got to do well in Iowa.
You're saying as we build the intensity towards the February 3rd, and by the way, you're going to have an impeachment trial during this time, that in all likelihood, that as it builds up to the February 3rd, it's going to be, the media is going to be on all Iowa all the time. So if he finishes 3rd or 4th, they'll try to bury him right there.
Absolutely. I mean, he has to. Joe Biden has to win Iowa. Otherwise, I think his campaign is over.
Our number is 888-480-5646. John Fredericks Radio Network and America's Voice.news. Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. We're here on War Room Impeachment. Raheem?
So Jason's exactly right about the malarkey. If you are Joe Biden, if you're the Democrats, and we saw this with Nancy Pelosi shifting the narrative from quid pro quo to bribery, you focus test the heck out of everything. That's just the way these guys roll, right? This shows that they haven't done that. No focus group, no poll group is going to tell you that malarkey and no malarkey, especially the use of a negative phrase on the side of a bus, is going to resonate with voters across the country. Now, it may, in sort of small pockets, Joe Biden likes to think malarkey is used by Irish and Irish Americans quite a lot, so it may, in small pockets of, as you say, older voters, they may know what it's about. What this shows is the campaign going, he likes the word malarkey, just let him keep using the word malarkey, and that shows a lack of, a lack of belief from within the campaign that they actually need to behave like a proper campaign anymore.
I'm a big believer in this concept of generational change, and this concept of the fourth turning. One of the things that when the malarkey thing first came out, you heard, okay, boomer. There's a clear generational divide within the Democratic Party, more so than I think even the nation, and certainly the Republican Party. You can see it. The young voters are attracted to the AOC types and are mobilizing in back of even a guy like a Bernie Sanders because they think that's essentially the AOC movement. And you see a lot of young people around Elizabeth Warren because of the drive to socialism. Why would you do this when that would just, to me, reset the fact that you're a throwback, and they're not looking for a throwback. They're looking to go forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I were Mayor Pete, the first time a camera or microphone...
Does Mayor Pete look like he's getting ready for his first communion? I mean, is this guy the guy's going to stand up to Xi and the guys? And I did rip off a Saturday Night Live. I think they said in First Communion soup, but he reminds me. As soon as they said, he reminds me of a guy getting ready for his first communion. Is that the guy that's going to go up against Xi, go against Putin, go against the mullahs? I mean, there's a world full of bad actors. Okay,
no,
you got a guy like Donald Trump. He may not be a guy you want to invite over for a beer, but he's a tough guy for tough times. Is Mayor Pete fall into that category?
Yeah, I don't think Mayor Pete's going to stack up as a particularly serious player when you look at, especially take a week like this where President Trump is over in London for these NATO meetings. I mean, you can't sit down for a meeting with President Xi and say, do you want to talk Norwegian literature? Or, one of these other...
Is that what he's into?
Yeah, he is. He taught himself... Now, I got to give him props on this. He taught himself Norwegian so he could read the original text of one of his favorite authors. I can't speak Norwegian, so I can't throw any stones at that. But also, I probably would just read the translation.
Yeah. Let's go. Can we get one more call in here? What we got, Raheem?
We've got on line one Dennis in Chesapeake, Virginia. Dennis, this is a War Room Impeachment Vox Populi. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Yes, I'm interested to know what research you may have done relative to following the money out of Burisma into the United States, not just over to Biden's son, but also possibly through a well-known company called Franklin Templeton, and possibly even going to Mr. Adam Schiff.
You mean the Franklin Templeton Fund? Real briefly, Dennis, what do you mean by that? Franklin Templeton's a major money manager. What do you mean by that?
Money trail of stolen money being laundered into the country and eventually getting to Franklin Templeton and to Mr. Adam Schiff.
Okay, Dennis, we're going to take a short commercial break. What we want you to do is hold. We're going to get one of our guys to talk to you offline and get some information on this. It's War Room Impeachment, Vox Populi, 888-480-5646. We're going to take a short commercial break. We'll return with all your calls throughout the world and the nation next.
War Room Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, episode 55, Breitbart Embassy. This is a special Vox Populi. Every Monday, we take your calls from throughout the country and the world on the John Fredericks Radio Network and America's Voice.news. Our number is 888-480-5646. We're going to go to the state of Washington and John in the state of Washington. How you doing, sir?
I was just going to have some opinions on Trump.
Okay, give it to us.
Or some observations.
We'll take both.
What you look at, I think what you look at is you look at people's actions. To me, what people say, it's meaningless. People used to tell me, oh, Obama is such an eloquent speaker. Well, so was Bernie Madoff, and so was Jeffrey Dahmer. What does that mean? That's meaningless. Let's look at their actions. Look at the results. That's the key. The only negative I could say on Trump is, I assume he's getting advised on tweeting, and I don't have all the information. But
does he ever get advised on tweeting? No. I'm just
laughing.
I'm laughing at Jason Miller, who's had that conversation. Okay, let me ask you, John, because we've got a lot of calls we got to get to. In the state of Washington, which did not vote for President Trump and is not leaning to President Trump, and is one of the hotbeds out there, particularly in Seattle, of the dump Trump movement, the impeach Trump movement. What do your folks around you say? Not people that are diehard Trump supporters, but others. What are they saying about this entire impeachment effort?
Well, anyone that has a brain would see what Trump is accomplishing, but you can't help a moron.
Okay, what is your
actually getting out of Washington?
What's the action? Give one action, specific action President Trump has taken that you support and like and you think has been beneficial to the nation.
Well, I think for the prison system, what he's done, for the economy, for trade, I mean, there's a lot of things. It'd be hard to pick one thing when he's done so many things.
John in Washington.
Getting the economy, people need jobs.
How's the economy in Washington right now?
The economy's it's okay in Washington. Eastern Washington isn't doing as well as Western Washington.
Well, isn't Eastern Washington Trump country? Isn't that where we're supposed to be doing better?
No.
What's the problem with that?
It's become very, very liberal. It's Eastern Washington we've been very close on some elections with liberal people. So, I'm pretty familiar with Eastern Washington. And if you look back 12, 15 years ago, Eastern Washington was very conservative, but it's becoming more and more liberal. I mean, they brainwash these kids in the school.
John, thank you very much. John in the state of Washington, really appreciate it. Before we go to the next caller, I want to turn to our own expert on the state of Washington. Very few people know that Jason Miller is actually from Seattle. Eastern Washington, I thought, was a hotbed of the Trump movement. Don't tell me folks in California are now overrunning Eastern Washington.
No, they're all going to head directly to Seattle and Bellevue, maybe get a little...
Are you the one grassroots conservative that came out of Seattle?
I think I'm the only one, and boy, I turned 18. I got the heck out of that place.
Is John right? Did they brainwash those kids out there? Is the education system out there pretty liberal?
Well, one of the things to keep in mind is that the entire West Coast has been decimated for Republicans over the past decade, 20 years. There just hasn't been enough attention that's been put into it. We've seen that particularly in California, where there's no longer a single Republican member of Congress in Orange County, home of John Wayne.
Unbelievable.
But Eastern Washington...
the home of California Republicanism.
Exactly.
Really, the Orange County is what drove Ronald Reagan to the governorship and drove Ronald Reagan then eventually to the White House.
Yeah, and so to the extent there are Republicans in Washington State, they are in Eastern Washington, but it's been a tougher road to hoe. Just everyone forgets about the West Coast overall. You see the same thing in Oregon, quite frankly.
Okay, by the way, here's the rules. Our number's 888-480-5646. We need you quick on the trigger as soon as you get punched in. Let's get to the point because we've got the boards are burning down at the John Fredericks Radio Global Corporate Headquarters with Kyra Johnson doing such a great job manning the boards down there. Raheem, who we got next?
That's one of those big skyscrapers in Richmond, right? That's in the.
Don't be, you London guys. Don't be dissing Richmond.
Hey, listen, I would love a city with no skyscrapers. London's been ruined by them.
We call it human scale.
We have on line 3 Trent in Louisiana. Trent, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Trent, how can we help you, sir? Okay, let's go. We may have lost Trent. What's the next in the batters lineup? Having a little problem here with our switchboard here in the remote location on Capitol Hill.
Well, in the defense of the John Fredericks corporate headquarters, I only found out we were doing a 3-hour show this morning as well. So I think everybody has to adjust.
If I told you earlier, you wouldn't have shown up. I would have gotten a sick day.
There would have been traffic on the one block between my house and here.
Exactly.
We have Nick on line 1 in Florida. Let's go to Nick on line 1. Nick, are you with us this morning? Maybe some technical issues, Nick.
I tell you, until we get the technical issues, our number is 888-480-5646. 888-480-5646. I want to ask you guys about Anonymous. By the way, we're looking for your calls throughout the world, throughout the country. We've had a bunch of people on the switchboards having a little difficult time connecting to people.
There are a lot of calls coming.
We got a lot of calls.
We may be blowing up some equipment.
Yeah. We may have a meltdown, but we're going to try to get to you folks as soon as we can get connected. Anonymous. Do you think this? And Anonymous now is out on Reddit. Is this the guys at Javelin that are trying to drive. It was number one on the bestseller list. Are they trying to drive book sales by putting this guy out?
Yeah, they're very smart actually at Javelin. It's a smart communication shop.
His
public
name is Raheem
relations.
Kassam, and he's looking for a book.
I love.
You don't have to pitch on national radio.
By the way, I don't mind declaring it. I've spoken to Javelin before about potential book deals. They're a very good shop. They're an impressive place, and doing.
And we might say, I want to make a pitch for Raheem Kassam's book.
But
no-go zones is one of the no, it's one of the.
I did that this morning on WMAL as well.
You pitched your own book.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then you did the one with Enoch Powell.
Enoch Powell, yeah.
Enoch Powell. So you've had a couple of good books out there.
But listen, now I'm done with the $30,000 advances. For me, it's $1 million or nothing. Just Javelin, in case you're listening. Anyways,
Anonymous Junior.
Yeah.
Raheem Kassam.
They did this Reddit AMA, right? And for those people that don't know out there, Reddit is a social media site, effectively, where people can pretty anonymously go on there and leave comments. And AMA is Ask Me Anything. It features somebody of global import or national import, and they go on there and they answer questions from the.
For people
from the
maybe
great
not
unwatched.
familiar of it, the Reddit AMA thing's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
You got to be a celebrity. You got to be a known figure to be on there.
You get it depends on which channel it's in and all the subreddit it's in and all these things. But I mean, it's a big deal. A lot of people tune into these things. A lot of people throw questions at these things. And the anonymous author of the book goes in and does as an AMA, but kind of got ripped up on Reddit. People.
What do you mean ripped up?
Well, people were not convinced that. Firstly, almost every answer to every question that Anonymous gave, and didn't answer a lot of questions, by the way, were lauding his or her own patriotism and his or her own.
Oh, it's a very self-righteous book.
It's a very self-righteous book, but it was a sales pitch, and you can't really do that on Reddit, especially not on an AMA. An AMA is supposed to be bare all. Right? Be honest, be authentic. And this was just a book pitch. Aren't I great? I'm defending the country. I'm defending democracy. And he got ripped up as a result.
What do you mean ripped up? Can you give me an example?
lot of people criticizing, saying, don't just come on here and try and plug your book at us. Don't come on here and laud your own thing. If you were so brave, you'd come out with a name and tell us who you were.
Okay, let me. We need some help here from our listening audience. Our number is 888-480-5646. If you can't get on, keep calling back. And once you get on, when we come to you, make sure you cut your radio down and be ready. Be on the trigger. If you're on hold when we come to you, you'll hear my voice and just hit it right away. Some of the problems we've had is people are just now learning the ground rules. So we want the ground rules that. If you get on, just hold. We'll eventually get to you.
That's okay. It's been a while.
It's been around.
It's been a while since they've had a great radio show to call into.
This was the way we built our last radio show. Okay, who's our next?
Nick's back. Hopefully, we have Nick in Florida on line one. Let's try and connect with Nick right now. Nick, do you have us now? Good morning.
Yeah, I got you guys.
Great.
Yeah, I just have a question about national security in China. And a short follow-up to put it into context.
Okay, give it.
What are some of the more effective strategies China is using against the U.S. with data analytics and AI and undermining the democracy? I heard Robert Spalding mention in an interview, we are spending more on kinetic weapons rather than education in the sciences.
Nick in Florida, I want to thank you very much. It's a brilliant call. General Spalding was, I think, the smartest guy we had in the White House. He was brought in as a member. He had been a military aide out in Beijing. We brought General Spalding to the White House specifically because of his expertise. He's a B-2 pilot. I think one of the greatest officers we had in the entire United States military. He's now out. A very close colleague of ours. The Chinese, it's information warfare, it's economic warfare, and it's kinetic warfare. And this is central to the Trump presidency. Remember, America in decline, the managed decline, and you saw the managed decline 2 weeks ago in the shift hearings. That is the elite in this country that have been around for the managed decline. And so what you're seeing, and particularly with General Spalding, he's been saying, hey, the information warfare part is every bit or maybe even more important than the kinetic warfare part. And if people come together, and we're very wise, you see President Trump is now engaged fully in the economic war that the Chinese have been running against us. Today, the two announcements on Argentina and Brazil, if you have not heard, President Trump tweeted out at 6 o'clock in the morning, hey, I don't like the fact that guys like Argentina and Brazil that we're very close to are devaluing their currencies and essentially making their agriculture product more competitive to the Chinese, particularly when President Trump's trying to cut this deal. So
yeah, and President Trump was asked about it this morning with reporters just ahead of his trip to London. He said, I'll quote, if you take a look at what's happened with their currency, he's referring to Argentina and Brazil, they've devalued their currency by 10%. Argentina also, I gave them a big break on tariffs, but now I'm taking the break off because it's very unfair to our manufacturers and very unfair to our farmers. Our steel companies will be very happy and our farmers will be very happy with what I do.
Nick, I want to thank you very much for the question. We'll go to another call. Before I do that, I want to say that this China is the central part of the Trump agenda of where he's trying to stop America declining, particularly bringing manufacturing jobs back. And what Nick talked about and what General Spalding's been talking about, we need to double and triple down in education in our own country, particularly in advanced, right now, Made in China 2025 is a convergence of advanced chip design, artificial intelligence, and robotics. And that is what we need to in our great engineering schools, which, right now, the foreign nationals in engineering schools, I went to a state, a land-grant university in Virginia Tech, and, they've got a lot of foreign students, which is not a problem. We'd love to have foreign students come over here. We'd love to train, but the kids in the state and the kids in the United States, citizens in the United States, got to have a fair shot for those deals, and you ought to be doubling and tripling down on education, particularly in the STEM programs. And we got to make sure that minorities get a shot for these jobs in Silicon Valley, particularly in things like artificial intelligence.
Yeah, no, Steve, you're exactly right. And I think for too long, the U.S. has lagged at putting in the proper funding here and making sure that we have the right focus on STEM. And even to take it a step further, just even talk about China. I was having the conversation with my oldest daughter over the weekend. And she's like, Dad, I want to start learning another language. And I said, well, the one you need to learn is Chinese, because this is where the economic competition is going to be over the next century, which she wasn't too happy about that. She's like, well, why don't you go learn Chinese?
Yeah, she was thinking about French or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
Spanish,
no,
right.
like, this is, you want to know where the future is going to be? It's going to be in this U.S.-China economic competition.
Here's what I love about our callers. The questions so far are just fantastic. Raheem, who we got on deck? I want to get a few more in before we break for the hour.
Linda is calling us from the great state of Texas. Let's bring Linda in.
Linda, how you doing? How can we help you this morning, ma'am?
Hi, this is Linda from Texas.
Hey.
Yes.
I actually was wanting to know how y'all view independence in general, because we haven't really had a voice in politics until now. And if you thought Trump was more independent, because that's how I view him instead of Republican.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean you view him more independent? What do you view a Republican, and what do you view an independent, and why do you think Trump's more of an independent?
I think he has a voice for the most central of us who don't actually have a party, because both parties have seemed to be the same for so long that it's the back and forth ping pong instead of getting anything done.
When you say both parties are the same, I mean, the cultural agendas of the two parties are pretty radically different, right? In the economic policies of the two parties, Democrats are much more state intervention than the Republicans that are much more free market. And the Democrats also are much more, I think, intrusive into the personal lives of people, and the Republicans maybe not so much, particularly the Libertarian Republicans. So how do you view Trump in that framework? Where do you view President Trump?
I view him as a centrist, more like me, who wants things done. It's not really about party. It's about what's best for all of us in general.
Let me ask you right now, what would you think would be best? This is why you got to hit a fastball, Linda, but that's why we love you calling in. You're perfect. Okay. You're perfect. You're doing great. Just rank order the one or two most important things you think the President of the United States could do now, you're a centrist, to bring the country together and to get something done. What do you think they would be?
That's a loaded question. I think actually what he's doing is slicing some of the regulations, the smaller things that he's doing that nobody's really talking about or noticing the most. The judges getting in the lawlessness, trying to rein that in. I think those things are helping a lot more than anything, because it's been so, the laws have gotten so out of control, and judges have gotten so out of control that everything else has just fallen apart.
Yeah, and Linda,
So
you
I
make
think
a really
bringing
good
those
point.
in has helped a lot.
Yeah, you make a really good point. This is Jason. And going back to 2016, I think people forget that if President Trump had been viewed as your quote-unquote typical Republican, if it was Republican Donald Trump in the same way that they talk about a Republican Ted Cruz, a Republican Marco Rubio, a Republican Chris Christie,
He would have lost.
He would have lost. And that is the exact point that you're making, because when people think of Donald Trump, they don't think of the party first. They think of someone who is going to try to get things done. That's why he ran for office and do it in the first place. And I think this is really key for people who do run for elected office, that if you're branded simply by your party, you're automatically tuning out somewhere between 10 and 30% of the electorate. So you know what? Both of these guys on both sides are bums. All they have is their own personal agendas they want to do. We want people actually going and get things done. So Linda, your call is absolutely spot on. And the key, when I say that the absolute key to President Trump winning in 2020, even bigger than the economy, even bigger than anything else from my perspective, is for him to remain the outsider, for him to remain the change agent, the person who's trying to change Washington. If they make him the incumbent, then he's done. But as long as he can be the person who's trying to change Washington, he'll defeat Biden or Sanders or Warren or any of these folks.
Linda, on that point, down in Texas,
Right, the independent thinker.
yeah, in Texas,
Sorry.
that's the new battleground state. As you sit today and you project out to 2020, do you think that Texas is really a battleground state, and do you think Trump will win Texas?
I hope he does, but it's becoming very liberal. A lot. It's caught between liberal and independent thinkers, because Texas really isn't Republican or Democrat. It's independent and liberal. So, or left, I would say, because we've been invaded for a long time. So it's a battleground in its own. We're having an internal battleground between independents and far left.
Linda, thank you very much. Linda in Texas, that was a great call. We want to hear the in-depth analysis. Remember, you got to hit a fastball. We're interested in your opinion. We provide the news, you provide the opinion. This is the Socratic method that we perfected in our previous radio incarnation. Raheem, can we get one more in before we go to break?
I believe so. We've got Lucy in Oregon on the line. Lucy, good morning. Welcome to A War Room.
The People's Republic of Oregon.
The People's Republic of Oregon and the Vox Populi show. Lucy, do we have you? Lucy in Oregon. Going once.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
Lucy, how you doing? How can we help you this morning, ma'am?
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, thank you. So I am wondering, why are the Democrats just so able to get away with the things that they're doing, aligning with foreign agencies, calling out for
What, hang on. What do you mean? What do you mean align with foreign agencies?
Well, like the governor of Oregon has made some kind of a trade deal. Nancy Pelosi, is heading off to Spain. It's just all these people are doing their own thing. They don't seem to be putting America first, and I just don't understand how they're able to attempt to harm our country.
Well, you're in Oregon. Aren't the Democrats out there really enthusiastic about impeaching and removing President Trump from office? Aren't they all? They think they're doing that for a greater national purpose?
I can't say that they're really doing it for a greater national purpose. Like Kate Brown says that she has a lot of transparency, but there's a lot of redactions. I just know that Oregon is a pretty liberal state, and logic does not seem to have a firm stand here.
Real quickly, we only got about 30 seconds. When you say that the governor's cut a trade deal with, he's trying to bring in jobs, or he's trying to cut a trade deal. Where's the trade deal? The trade deal is with China, or who's it with?
Well, I'm not sure which agency that it was with, but she had put something out on the web recently where she is doing a trade deal with Asia.
Okay, Lucy in Oregon, thank you very much. From the People's Republic of Oregon, we've got a great covering of the nation today on Vox Populi, which is episode 55. It's the special from War Room Impeachment. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. We're here at the Breitbart Embassy. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we return, we got another hour of your calls. Want to make sure you're quick on the trigger as you talk to Raheem, Jason, myself. Looking forward to hearing all of your points of view, all of your opinion, the Socratic method, live on War Room Impeachment, Vox Populi, taking all your calls, 888-480-5646.
War Room, Impeachment. With Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, and Raheem Kassam. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment from the Breitbart Embassy on Capitol Hill. It's a dreary Monday, about to start a historic week. Adam Schiff will drop the report tonight at 6 o'clock. I'm sure we'll hear about it on CNN sometime after 4 o'clock. The weaponized leaks as they go to the Judiciary Committee on Wednesday. Jerry Nadler has public hearings, and the process of impeaching President Trump is underway. I'm here with Jason Miller, senior campaign communication strategist for Trump 2016 and the transition, and Raheem Kassam of Brexit fame. Two guys who have run a war room before. We actually have a war room here up and running with polling and rapid response and monitoring 24/7. We're here 7 days a week. This is Vox Populi, episode 55, the special we do every Monday for 2 hours to hear the voice of America and hear what folks have to say. Jason, you want to give a shout? Lucy in Oregon, you actually broke some news there, because as we were on the site, right when you hung up, Lucy gave us a big heads up, didn't she?
She did, and actually story just came out in Politico, or you can just call Lucy. If you want your breaking news, call Lucy. Option B, go to Politico or one of the other things.
Lucy, we got a slot here for you in rapid response, since our guys are a little sleepy over there.
And she's doing it from the West Coast.
Exactly.
So it's like, 0 dark 30 out there. So
under that snow in Oregon.
Exactly. Well, mainly rain. But so Nancy Pelosi, the rest of the country is either getting ready for Christmas or they're dealing with the snow in big chunks of the country. But Nancy Pelosi is off in Madrid, Spain, for a UN conference today. And she had a press conference where she came out and said, by coming here, we want to say to everyone we're still in regarding the Paris Climate Accord. And the United States is still in. And so Nancy Pelosi in Spain declaring that we're still in the Paris Climate Accord, essentially rebuking what President Trump has declared.
Here's what Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, are look at. The Gilets jaunes in France that revolted against Macron when he tried to put the diesel tax to pay for China's pollution. China came out last week and said they're really building, I think, 3x number of coal-fired plants. They have no concept. They've been lying to everybody about their going along with the Paris Accord. The Paris Accord is the worst deal in human history for the United States. And President Trump has said this from day one. The Chinese have been gaming the system. John Kerry went to the UN, Nancy Pelosi, to try to get some teeth. He said, we don't get teeth into this, it's not going to mean anything. Not only is not any teeth, the Chinese are just out there and they're up in your grill about how they don't care about it. All they care about is their own economic growth. The Paris Accord is a total and complete joke. The president backed out. It was the very first thing after TPP that he walked away from, smartly. If you want to get something done, you really got to have something that everybody pulls in the same direction. Here it was just gaming the system. That's what's so outrageous. But we want to thank Lucy in Oregon for giving us the heads up on that, as Nancy Pelosi is gallivanting around Europe, right, before President Trump shows up saying we're in the Paris Accord. Let's go to Milwaukee and Vicky in Milwaukee, you're on War Room Impeachment, Vox Populi, where we take calls throughout the nation and the world. How can we help you this morning, ma'am?
I would just like to talk to everyone and to talk to the Republican base and to talk specifically about the politicians, specifically Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, being from California and specifically San Francisco, and the disgusting, just the disgustingness that's going on in San Francisco. And
what do you mean by that? Hang on, be specific. I know in Milwaukee you don't have any disgusting. So what's so disgusting in San Francisco that gets your quaint sensibilities in Milwaukee worked up?
I would say the feces on the street, the human waste, them giving out free needles to drug users that are all over the streets and the parks, and use drug needles, which could, pass HIV or different.
Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and Adam Schiff is a congressman that's in charge of the House Intelligence Committee. What role do they have in the goings on of the city of San Francisco and how they deal with vagrants, how they deal with homelessness?
Well, I don't know specifically what their roles would be, but I think that they're in Congress representing those districts and trying to help the constituents in those districts. And if there's massive homelessness in tent cities and drug use, and they're handing out free needles, and they set up like cannabis shops on the street right next to all these drug users, and I think they give all the homeless people like a certain monetary stipend per month.
Yeah, so this is Jason. Let me jump in here for a moment. I think another way to look at this, and look, there are a number of different ways to debate what's going on with the homeless crisis. I was just in California, I was in Los Angeles area, and you literally see entire blocks of homeless encampments. I mean, it literally, it looks like a dystopian type future. And I'm originally from Seattle, so I was back there a few months ago, and literally would see people walking around strung out on meth. And these are a pretty nice suburb. Wouldn't expect to see that when I was growing up when I was a kid, but going to the actual opportunity cost of what the Democrats are doing. So when you talk about a Nancy Pelosi, you talk about an Adam Schiff, would they want to deal with that homeless crisis or cleaning up San Francisco or some of the other cities that have gone to heck out there on the West Coast? No, they're so focused on this impeachment effort with President Trump that they're completely bypassing any effort to clean up their own streets in their own neighborhood. So I think that's another way.
Exactly.
That's another way to look at it.
And it's an embarrassment for the entire country.
So let's go. But
we see President Trump bringing all these jobs and all this economic development, and people are getting better wages, and there's more job opportunities.
Okay, Vicki, are you seeing this? You're in Milwaukee. Are you seeing this? Because Wisconsin is an absolute critical state. Are you seeing this with your own eyes in the state of Wisconsin and in Milwaukee?
Am I seeing the problem in California?
No. Are you seeing Are you seeing the jobs? Are you seeing the increased wages in Wisconsin and in Milwaukee? You said that's a big positive for President Trump. California, you're just reading on the newspaper, seeing on the news. You directly feel what's going on in Wisconsin.
I see on Twitter what's going on.
Forget Twitter. Forget Twitter. With your own eyes in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, you just said better jobs, growing economy, better wages. Is that a fact in Wisconsin as you see it?
Yes.
Vicki in Milwaukee, thank you very much. Great call. Got to hit a fastball, folks. She could hit it. A couple of foul tips, and then she went opposite field. What do we got next, Raheem? That's a great call.
We have Doug in Ohio, I believe, on line one.
Doug in Ohio. How can we help you this morning, sir, on War Room Impeachment Vox Populi?
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you very much for the show.
Sure.
Thanks for taking my phone call. I want to get to the USMCA. What's going to happen if it doesn't pass this year? What does it look like next year? Is she going to hold this off until maybe the election? Can it go out that far?
You know, it's interesting. Doug, I want to thank you for the call. That's a fantastic call. You know, by the way, the War Room staff just tells me it was 30 November, Doug, of last year where President Trump actually signed this. It's been 1 year through the process. To Doug's point, Jason Miller, it's an arbitrary. We want to get it done this year to get it done, right? It should be done. Should have been done 6 months ago. It can roll into next year, but then it gets to the politics of an election year. Why was this not done? Why did Nancy Pelosi slow it down?
Well, simply because Nancy Pelosi and House Democrats don't want to give President Trump a win. I mean, under every measurable standard, USMCA is going to lead to additional jobs. It's going to improve our standing. Industry after industry, this is going to put American farmers, American drug companies, anything you can think of, it's going to put American companies in better positions.
I think it adds 1% to GDP over time, right? I mean, this is a major. This also sets up Canada, Mexico, and the United States as a geostrategic strategic manufacturing base that can compete against China.
Yeah, and my concern here is that the longer that Pelosi goes on, to what extent are Mexico and Canada just going to hang out and say, you know what, we're fine indefinitely? And keep in mind, here's the thing everyone needs to remember. They said that it would take years and years for President Trump to get this deal done. And then they pop up. They're like, hey, we got Mexico on board. They use Mexico to strong-arm Canada, and then Pelosi sits on it for a year.
But this is the point. He was going to do USMCA first as the chess piece you make before you do China. This is the opportunity cost, and this is why people should be outraged. If you're an independent or a Democrat and you like a growing economy, leave the ideology aside. This is nothing more, and they've tried to blame it on Trump gun, the union guys. That's all hogwash. This was slow walk by Nancy Pelosi. Raheem.
I want to make a point here about bringing it back to the whole impeachment process. You know, people are having these arguments in their jobs, around their dinner tables, around the Thanksgiving table last week. You'll probably have it again in a couple of weeks at your Christmas dinner table as well. And think about it this way. You have the Democrats alongside the unelected bureaucrats in the public hearings process saying the reason we're doing this is because President Trump is negatively impacting long-established national defense, national security, foreign affairs priorities. In the meantime, you have Nancy Pelosi going to Madrid and saying we're still in the Paris Climate Accords. You have these guys saying, the USMCA cannot pass over the course of a year. You tell me, and you ask your people at home and in your jobs when they tell you, oh, the president's a problem. You tell me, who sets foreign policy, who sets trade policy, and who are the ones who are currently getting in the way of it? That's the long and short of it. That's how you win the arguments out there. This guy was elected, he's trying to do these things, and they're the ones stopping it, not the other way around. As
the outsider. You're listening to War Room Impeachment, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller, Stephen K. Bannon on the John Fredericks Radio Network and also on AmericaVoice.net. You can get us every day 9 to 10 live on Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable news operation in the country, and also on Salem Radio Broadcasting. We're also repeated on Salem, I think, at 9 o'clock at night, and many, many independent stations throughout the country. Our number is 888-480-5646. Really want to compliment the audience. The calls have been tremendous, initiated a lot of great conversation. Can we get another caller there, Raheem?
We do. We have Kathy, who's in Florida, on line 3. Kathy, good morning and welcome to Vox Populi. I got Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. Kathy, do we have you?
Yes. Hi. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Kathy? How can we help you?
I just wanted to let you know, guys, that sometimes some of the youth is starting to see certain things what they didn't see before. I am a professor in Florida, and I have had minority kids coming to me that they are more and more understanding what President Trump is doing. They don't know, I'm an independent, so they don't know where my vote is, but at the same time, they know very well that I am more on the conservative side. I was shocked the other day. I had a lady who is an African-American woman in her 60s who came to me.
Let me ask you, Kathy. Kathy, let me ask you. You're a professor of what? What subject do you teach?
I do not want to disclose that. I would like to keep my job.
Okay, fine. When you say youth, and particularly minority youth, are coming to you and saying they're starting to understand what President Trump's doing, what do you mean by that? What are they starting to understand that President Trump is accomplishing?
They are seeing that they have, giving you a short story. One of my students had to take the being on the bus about 3 hours every day back and forth. After President Trump came out with the new tax laws, he got $3,000 bonus from his job. He also have achieved a higher hourly wage. We sat down, I helped him with some calculations, and he figured out that he can buy a car, so he could come to school with his new car. He was not finally falling asleep in my class. So it was a win-win situation. And they are starting to see these little changes in their own lives.
Kathy, I want to stay on that for a second. They're seeing economic growth, jobs, increasing wages. Is that the principal thing they're starting to see in their lives? How President Trump's policies on the economy are starting to have a positive impact on them?
That's one of the things. But there are others, like, for example, sometimes they realize that what is in the news is repetitive. They making fun of sometimes some of the newscasters who are repeating the same word over and over again, and they are criticizing President Trump for not having enough vocabulary, and then they are repeating the same word in their own news. So anyway, this is just
Kathy,
a little thing, but go ahead.
No, it's very important. I want to thank you so much for your call. When we get to the other call, this is a very important call. I want to thank you so much for calling in, and we hope you have complete job security. Kathy from Florida is a professor down there. This is economic nationalism at work. It doesn't matter about your race, your ethnicity, your color, your gender, your sexual preference, your religion. It doesn't matter any of that. If you're a citizen of the United States, things are going to get better because President Trump, between immigration policy and his tax cuts, deregulation, deconstruction, administrative state, trade policy, he's looking to bring, and this is why USMCA, as Doug in Ohio reminded us, is so important. This is what it means. And for those people out there, particularly Republicans that want to go back to the old playbook, what Kathy is talking about is the future. These policies of Trump that so many establishment Republicans have fought. They fought the trade policies. They don't like the immigration policies that are there to protect American workers, right? They don't like the fact Wall Street always goes into a tizzy as soon as they see wages rising. This is what the Trump revolution is about. Trump revolution, not just about economic growth, it's also about not all the benefits going to capital, that some of the benefits go to labor, and that's you're seeing in increasing wages. Jason, you've been fighting this from day one, but Kathy's call shows you there are green sprouts coming up. And that's why I think it was not the Morning Consult, but I think it was Emerson. Emerson had last week, Kathy, where they had polling that showed 34% of African Americans like Trump's policies, 36% of Hispanics like Trump's policies. That there's polling out there to show Hispanic males like his economic policies and his national security policies because they understand with UMCA in making Canada, Mexico, and the United States a geostrategic manufacturing base that compete against East Asia. High value added manufacturing jobs are going to come back, and the beneficiaries of that are going to be African American labor and Hispanic labor. And that is Hispanic American labor. That is what they understand, and her class is understanding this. The guy that takes an hour and a half each way for the bus, he's tired in the morning, he's asleep. Now he's got a car. She helps him work through the math. He's got a car. He's coming to and he understands he's got that car as the direct response. Somebody said earlier, it's about his, the guy in Washington said it's about his actions, not about his talk.
Yeah, and Steve, any economic professor...
Kathy, you got me worked up.
Yeah, no, this is great, because when you look at a tight labor market, which is where we are now, the folks who are benefited the most are those who are typically left behind. And so when you talk about African Americans, Hispanic Americans, women, folks who maybe get passed over in some of these job opportunities, when you have this tight of a labor market, they're seeing the biggest gains. And so it's not just, I think too many in the media want to make President Trump's relationship with the African American community simply about, well, he knows Kanye West, or maybe it's just it goes so much deeper into that. To how is your pocketbook being affected?
This is the it's so important that people, they say people don't have time, they're busy with their lives. One of the reasons they're busy, Trump's put them back to work. The wages are coming up. If they're not working, they're out, having a good time, taking the family out to a restaurant, doing some shopping. People are working a couple of jobs now because there's job opportunities, trying to put more money in their pocket. There's more discretionary income. That's why this Christmas season looks like it could be a blowout. Reason that most of America has so little time it can't focus on the impeachment is that they have busy lives. Right? That is the key to the Trump revolution. It's not this kind of doldrums. He's unlocked, and I think, Rahima, you and I talked about it on a couple of Saturdays ago, the animal spirits of capitalism. He's unlocked the animal spirits. She just talked about deregulation. It's not just his tax cuts. It's the deconstruction of the administrative state, as Cleta Mitchell was so good to point out the other day. Raheem, you got anything to throw in here before we take another caller?
No, go right ahead.
Who do you have next?
We've got Trent in Louisiana on line 1. Trent, welcome to Vox. Populi. Welcome to the War Room. You've got Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller. Go right ahead.
How can we help you, Trent?
Hey, a worked up Steve Bannon is the best Steve Bannon.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I'm getting heckled from Louisiana.
Hey, listen, yeah. Hey, I'm a drawler, but I'm gonna go fast.
Okay.
Listen, my wife's getting close to eternity, so I'm a caregiving guy, but I've got 40 years in the Christian conservative movement, and I've seen a lot of maturity there, and I'm wondering if you have. But when I look around the world, it gets breathtaking when you see the revival that's happening in America, in Russia. China's having the largest Christian revival in the history of mankind.
Amen, brother.
Center,
Amen, brother.
It may be the center of Christianity, they say.
Amen.
In the next, yeah. So Latin America, Africa, I'm wondering if we might be looking at a new world order. But here's my big question. And it's a little tough, and so work with me. Secularism is breaking down, it looks like, materialism. And people are moving either to occultism or back to Christianity, to the truth, I think. And I'm looking at this Jeffrey Epstein thing, and for the first time, if we continue to pursue this thing, besides just the horror of the little girls, this may take us all the way to the ruling class being involved in the occult, and this would knock the game wide open as to the spiritual realities. I think you can hear the quivering in my voice because I know there's so much writing on this question, and I know there's so many millions and millions of us ready to engage this question. Are we dealing?
Yep.
Are you tracking with me?
Yeah, I am. Thank you so much for the question. We're going to run out of time here. We got a break, but I want to address this. Is that number one in Hong Kong? These great young patriots, to Trent's point, the burning heart of the Christian movement globally now, I think, is coming from Asia and from Africa. You're seeing this, and these people are persecuted, just like we saw in Eastern Europe under the Russians, under the Soviets. Okay, we're gonna eventually gonna get this clock down. Stephen K. Bannon on War Room Impeachment. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to return. I'm going to answer. We're going to get to Trent's from Louisiana. A very, very, very important question about spirituality, Christianity, occultism, and what's happening throughout the world. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. Our number on Vox Populi is 888-480-5646. Also go to warroom.org. We got the new website up. Raheem worked all weekend, so make sure he feels good by going to it.
Okay.
Half the weekend. This is War Room Impeachment, episode 55. We're going to return in a short commercial break. 888-480-5646. We're going to answer the question of Trent from Louisiana next.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam. War Room Impeachment.
On the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller, Stephen K. Bannon, episode 55. This is our special every Monday, Vox Populi. That means voice of the people. We take your calls from throughout the nation and the world. 888-480-5646. Want to hear what's on your mind about impeachment, the economy, the direction of the country, or as Trent, Louisiana just talked about the spiritual. You know, some people talk it was a fourth or fifth potentially awakening. I will tell you, having traveled throughout the world, that we're at a inflection point. I don't think there's any doubt. And the revival, and this is why, one of the reasons I went to Rome when the Vatican signed this horrible deal under Pope Francis, the secret deal to basically throw the underground Catholic Church under the bus to the totalitarian dictatorship that President Xi and the atheistic communists that run the Chinese Communist Party. The revival of Christianity in China is unbelievable. The house Christians, the underground the Catholic Church. And if you want to see that, those young patriots, the millennials, if you've given up on millennials, just look at what's going on in Hong Kong. Those are principally Christian and Catholic youth that the combination of Chinese grit, intelligence, toughness, stick-to-itiveness, coupled with English common law, has created the third greatest capital market in the world from a barren rock. And they're fighting totalitarian dictatorship. They're exactly like the patriots of 1775 and 1776. I'm in awe. And I've been going to Hong Kong. In fact, the Chinese government just stopped the fleet visits. I think as a young man, I think it was in 76 or 77, I pulled into Hong Kong for the first time, just a kid from Virginia, and wow, it blew me away and has left an impact. I have a great abiding love of the Chinese people, of China. And this, remember, in the 1.4 billion people in China, and I actually think it's close to 1.5 billion, but the 1.4 billion, only 90 million are part of the Communist Party. 98% of the people in China are not communist. In fact, they do not. My dad and I were just talking over Thanksgiving about the movie The Good Earth. If you want to see what Old Hundred Names is really the working men and women, John Bull of China. It's the 100 names, the common names in China. Old 100 Names is kind of the peasants or the working class. And if you want to see what their lives are like, the movie The Good Earth shows you that. The Pearl Buck's book, The Good Earth. But these are the most decent people on earth. It's a totalitarian dictatorship that has been financed by Wall Street, by the City of London. The global corporatists have all made money. We have, they've run a psyops on our elites. That managed decline that took all the jobs from the Midwest, the manufacturing jobs, destroyed the textile business in the United States, was shipped out by Wall Street and the corporatists. This is what President Trump was elected to reverse that decline. That's why he is president of the United States. The managed decline of our elites, of both parties, the permanent political class in Washington, D.C., the managed decline was put in reverse by President Trump. This is why he won Michigan. This is why he won Wisconsin. This is why he won Pennsylvania. Raheem Kassam had seen the people in the United Kingdom in June of 2016 stand up and say, we want our country back. We don't want the party of Davos telling us what to do from Brussels. 4 or 5 months later, in November 2016, working class people and middle class people in the United States stood up and said, we want our country back. Jason Miller was there for that. And we saw, and it was a big electoral college win. It was obviously a squeaker win on the election side, but that's because people who had been Democrats, who had been lifelong Democrats, came out and voted for President Donald J. Trump. And now the nullification project began the moment he was elected at 2:30 a.m. on November 9th when the Associated Press announced he was president-elect. Hillary Clinton called and made that very quick congratulatory call. And we got on with it. In the streets was the beginning of what's called the resistance, which was really the nullification project. And they have tried that. In the nullification project in the United Kingdom's the exact same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're having another referendum on Brexit on December 12th. President Trump's over there starting tonight. Brexit and the Trump victory are inextricably linked. Why? Because working class and middle class people have revolted against central authoritarian control that is not about going forward and making things better and greater, but about decline. And that's how you can see the elites in this country have done it. When Nigel Farage that night, got a little wobbly there in the night after a couple of pints and was talking about, hey, maybe we didn't win because the early, just like Jason, when we saw the early exit polls at 5 o'clock on November 8th didn't look very good. Nigel got a little wobbly. I talked to him. It was the Midlands. It was the Labour vote in the Midlands of England that shifted it. And that's why right now Boris Johnson with Nigel Farage looks like they could be on a 50 vote majority in Parliament. And I think, and I've said this from the beginning, Brexit in 2016 inextricably linked. And if there's a big blowout win in the United Kingdom, that is the best predicate for what could happen in 2020. Nigel Raheem Kassam.
I won't be channeling Nigel on this. I'm a very, very serious Boris Johnson skeptic in all of this, and I'll explain what I explained on WMAL this morning, which is Boris Johnson is really the Paul Ryan of the conservative movement in the United Kingdom. He's not the Trump, and don't think just because they have similar shaggy hairdos or whatever it is that these two men stand for the same thing. Boris is an outright self-declared globalist. He is fully in hock to China. He was a pro-EU guy until he saw his political fortunes change from it in 2016. He is a morally depraved guy.
We have no room in our thing for opportunists.
We
have no room in our movement for opportunists.
He has been with several women and had to have abortions as a result of his adultery. I don't buy any of it, I'm afraid. And if the British public, it looks like they are going to give Boris Johnson a whopping great majority in the British Parliament to get Brexit done. This is the Conservative Party's slogan, get Brexit done. Yes, you might get a form of Brexit, but for the next 4 or 5 years, you are going to get the yoke of globalism foisted upon you yet again. And this is a lesson for Americans. When Trump is done in 2024, you will be faced with a choice once again, because you will have the globalist arm of the Republican Party pushing its candidates yet again. And the idea of who's going to be Trump after Trump is the big question.
It's pushed all in the first administration. It's going to be pushed in the second after 2020.
We got some callers as well.
Yeah, back to Trent in Louisiana. Even in I do believe you're seeing people. I don't know if it's the end of secular humanism, because certainly the party of Davos thinks they have an upper hand because they control the media, they control the universities, they have the high ground of culture. But I do think you're seeing some sort of revival, and even people's turning to this type of occultism. At least it shows people on a spiritual journey. Eventually, they may be converted to Christianity. I do think that Christianity, particularly as we saw in the Soviet Union, the persecuted countries, is where this is on fire, and nowhere like China. Let's take some. Let's take some additional calls here, Raheem.
Yeah, we've got, and this is a great. It fits very well. Gene's in Michigan on line 3 and wants to talk about that a little bit more, especially as it pertains to China and Hong Kong. Gene, do we have you?
Yes, you do, and I'm really happy to talk to you guys. Steve, you just basically took a lot of my thunder on China.
No, but hold it, brother. Give it to me again. I can't listen. As these guys know, China's my deal, so it's I can't hear enough about it. Give it to me.
I've watched your videos. Based on everything you've said about China, since 1997, when Hong Kong was handed over to the Chinese, it seems like the Chinese, the way they do the long road, they are encroaching, from what I understand from a video I watched of Alan Leong, is that they're slowly encroaching into the Hong Kong infrastructure in all levels. You know, their police, their government, and I'm just wondering, and also the South China Sea. How do we turn these guys back? Is Hong Kong a virus into China? One, and how do we turn this thing around the South China Sea with those little islands those people built? And get this thing to turn around. And are we going to go kinetic anytime soon?
Well, this is so. There's 3 types of wars. There's information, there's economic, and there's kinetic, which is guns up, which we want to avoid. And you've hit on it. And this is why it's so central to this election. This economic war that now we're engaged in, that China's been running against us, has eviscerated Michigan, eviscerated Pennsylvania, eviscerated Wisconsin, eviscerated Ohio, and before that, eviscerated North Carolina, Virginia, and the textile business. The Chinese Communist Party is rapacious, and that's why the question is what's happening in Hong Kong, Sarajevo in 1914, or is it Berlin in 1989? Is it the beginning or is it the end? And what you use as a virus, this is what they're talking about today. There's actually been riots going on, I think, in Guangzhou, in the southern, one of the big southern, or Guangdong, one of the big southern cities. Now, this is about a burial ground or crematorium, but the local people have had enough, and they're standing up. And the question is the contagion of Hong Kong and people standing up for their freedom. Is it going to spread? You know, those islands in the South China Sea, those man-made islands, this is back to Joe Biden. And Biden represents the permanent political class. It was Biden there in 2013 and 2014 that was sent by President Obama on the pivot to Asia to focus on this. It was Biden that botched that negotiations. The West allowing those stationary islands to be built, which are essentially aircraft carriers, that have been militarized. This is why Xi came to the Rose Garden in 2015 and in front of the nation with President Obama signed a deal that said we're going to stop cyber intrusions into our companies, into American companies, and we're not going to militarize the South China Sea. He looked at the President of the United States, he signed a document, and he stone cold lied. You mentioned the 1997 transfer. The transfer to Hong Kong was a lie, as you can see. They didn't have any intention of living up to the agreement. The Paris Accord, of which they signed, was a lie, as they announced in the front page of the Financial Times of London 2 weeks ago. They are tripling down on coal-fired plants. The South China, the deal they signed with President Obama, a lie. They will lie.
Where's the WTO? Where's the WTO?
That's a great question. The WTO, and this is why I think, we talk about this all the time. Why? The WTO and most favored nations is what China got as a developing nation in the late 90s under President Clinton, but agreed to by the Bush apparatus that, as they got bigger and got stronger, they become more liberal, they were going to become more freedom. Gene, do you think that is done? And most importantly, sir, do the people in Michigan understand the centrality of China in their daily lives and why what's happening in Hong Kong has a bigger impact in their lives than just about anything in the world that's going on?
I really fear they may not. I don't know, Steve. I don't know. I can't answer that question about China in Michigan. All I can say is that we are acutely aware of what is going on just with Democrat versus Republican and how pivotal this election is going to be, because if we don't win this next election, all of this stuff is going to be 180 back, and Trump is a sledgehammer, and if we lose him, what do we have?
Hold on. How's he? Before Jason jumps in, tell me how Trump is doing today in Michigan. You win Michigan, you win the presidency. How is President Trump, as you see today, how is he doing?
All I can say, I work in the largest healthcare system in Metro Detroit. I've been working with them since 1996, and I'm telling you right now, we are spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars upgrading our networks. I'm a network engineer, and we have never been spending so much money in healthcare and upgrading and acquiring health systems and building buildings as we are right now. This economy is on fire.
You bring up a really good point here with the way that President Trump is changing the trade debate. And I think one of the most underreported stories of this Trump presidency is how literally he brought the trade issue to the forefront that we hadn't seen since Ross Perot and back in the early 90s, even before NAFTA. But the way that this started off as a conversation on trade deficits, and now President Trump is talking about industries of the future. He's talking about aeronautics. He's talking about IT. He's talking about AI. He's talking about pharmaceuticals, and to the point where you're in
the fourth industrial revolution,
right? Where you're talking about in information technology. If President Trump doesn't take this tough stand now, these U.S. companies, our U.S. companies, won't even be competitors on the global stage 20 years down the road. And that's the thing where it's so easy. Look, it fits on a bumper sticker to say the trade deficit matters. That fits on a bumper sticker. But to let people know that literally that Boeing plant, when you talk about this manufacturing facility, all of these industries of where the jobs in the U.S. are going to be 10, 20, 30 years down the road, we have to have this fight now.
Gene, I want to thank you very much for your call. And by the way, the standard for these calls has been incredibly high today. This has been great stuff. 888-480-5646. We want to get as many calls in as possible. By the way, so the guys from the War Room just sent me the Lady Gaga. I think not only a Navy destroyer is being banned from Hong Kong, I think Lady Gaga liked a site that had the Hong Kong protesters, these young kids. Yeah. And I think the government of China is going to ban Lady Gaga from her concert tour. Lady Gaga standing up for the patriots in Hong Kong. What do we got here?
I was this close, and for those not watching the video live stream, my fingers are very close together, this close to playing a Lady Gaga song as you announced that. I just thought we had no scrubs last week. We could have had Poker Face this week. We have Wayne on the line from Wisconsin. Wayne, welcome to Vox Populi at War Room Impeachment. Steve Bannon, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. Wayne, do we have you?
Yep. How you doing?
Go ahead.
How are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good. Hey, thanks, guys, for the program. It's finally nice to hear the truth in a world full of non-truth.
Well, thank you, sir.
Always seeking out to find the truth, and of course, I'm glad that you guys are there. Listen, my wife and I just wanted to call in after I've heard the young lady call in from Milwaukee. I can kind of tee this softball up a little bit. Being from California, we lived there for 40 years, and we moved into Wisconsin and through a different means and everything. But we've been here almost 2 years, and I can tell you that there are provocative differences between California and Wisconsin. And some of the issues that are involved, it's not just the needles and the poop on the street and all that. It's the policies that these Democratic socialists have set in motion. They're taking the people's money, and they're not using it for the benefit of the people. And here in Wisconsin, I can see, as we have been here for 2 years, there's tons of signs. People have help wanted signs. They're looking for people to work. I mean, it's really generated a lot of work. In California, what the difference is there is that because of the illegal alien population and because the state has put itself into a sanctuary spot, they kind of ignore the guys, the illegals that go to the Home Depot.
So Wayne, let me ask you. People have said for now decades after World War II, you may be right for it, that California is always the future of America. You are a California resident for 40 years and went to Wisconsin. Do you see, when you're back, can you tell now on national radio, is California the future of our country?
It's a third world country. It's literally, my wife and I have already discussed this. It's kind of like we don't want to go back there. California is not the drive. Remember years ago that California used to be the driving force for a lot of different things within the industries. I mean, I know technology was one of them, but I worked as a traffic engineer in California for all those years, and we were the driving force for the municipalities as far as making the roads and getting highways out, and we pretty much wrote the book on a lot of things having pertained to traffic engineering. But nowadays, that's gone aside. What I'm saying is California, what has happened is they've allowed, I don't want to say this in too much of a rough way, but they've allowed the communists to come into the state and just take over.
Wayne, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Great call. So you're from the West Coast, and you just were out there on assignment. And you just said early in the program, Jason, that Orange County has no national Republican representatives. Is Wayne's point, is it become, it used to be the future. Is it not the future of the country? Is that where the country is going? That you have almost, he calls them communists, but let's say at least, if we can be gentle about it, at least a socialist mentality?
Well, yes. If we have President Elizabeth Warren or President Bernie Sanders, this is the direction we're going. And I'll tell you, I'll sum it up in real simple. I was born and raised on the West Coast, but my family is all from the Midwest. Father was born in Detroit. Mom's family is all from the UP in Michigan, so one state over from Wayne. But there's a difference. In the Midwest, when someone's down on their luck or they're between jobs or they're having a tough time finding work within the industry, the goal is to try to get them working. It's that Midwest work ethic, something that was really instilled at me at an early age. In California, and I'd say even in Washington State and Oregon, it's essentially another version of socialism. It's one handout after another. It's a handout to get them to their next safe space, and it's this coddling environment that really is a complete different direction to most of the rest of the country. I mean, you could never imagine any of that stuff flying in Milwaukee or Wisconsin or Michigan or anywhere in the upper Midwest. And quite frankly, it's a big part of the reason why Trump won 2016.
Is it the center of innovation? We'll go to Wayne's thing. I know Silicon Valley is the center of the algorithm industry, but we really haven't had any big movements in things like aerospace or all the leadership we had in technology for all those years. Now we're the leader in the algorithm, right? But has California lost its cutting edge, as far as Wayne says, in across industries of innovation in driving this economy?
I think in certain sectors, they're still the innovation drivers. There's always going to be innovation coming out of Silicon Valley and where they're going. But there's also, when you still look at the manufacturing core, when you still look at the work ethic, whether it's in the Sun Belt, we're seeing so much of the manufacturing we're seeing still in the upper Midwest, where so many of these, whether it be at making sure we have the auto centers for the U.S., so many of these manufacturing sectors are still going. It doesn't all come from California by any stretch.
Let's go. Can we get one more call in before we got to go? Raheem, we got about 2 minutes left.
Yes, we've got Michelle in Orange County, California, which we were talking about earlier on in the show. Michelle, welcome to the show. Michelle, very quickly.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? How can we help you?
I'm good. So I'm from Orange County, California.
Whereabouts in Orange County you're from?
Aliso Viejo.
Oh, great.
Call me a sleepy Republican. I fell asleep on the night of the election with Trump and woke up shocked that he won. But I still wasn't in politics until the midterms with Kavanaugh. And one of the things is that my peer mothers, there's like a group of us, and half of them were against Trump during that time and his talking points, and then the other half were like me. And the half that were against had 2 boys, and they did not, connect the dots there. And from there, I was able to,
So we got about 10 seconds left. Where are people right now? Are they more for Trump or are they against us?
Pro-Trump. That's what's so interesting. Over the last year, they are very no talk of impeachment. And I do holiday help at a major department store, and I have customers constantly talking about how they're right-leaning.
Michelle, we got to bounce. We want to thank you. We got a heart out here. We want to thank you. But Michelle in Orange County saying, hey, they're turning towards Trump. Okay, go to the website, warroom.org. We'll be back on tomorrow, 9 a.m., War Room Impeachment. See you tomorrow at 9 a.m.